I now call the Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting of May 6 to order. Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Fire Robin? Here. Hutton?
Here.
Powers? Here. Akard? Here. Turner?
Here. I want to welcome everyone here this evening. We're very glad that you are here as part of City Council. Thanks for being attentive to things happening in the city of Bristol, Tennessee. Thank you. There are a number of opportunities for the public to speak on matters of city business this evening. There was a sign-up sheet explaining the opportunities that was made available when you entered the room. As we go forward in tonight's agenda, I'll note each time when the public comment is welcome. So the sign-up sheet is here, and I'll make those things available as we move things through. It's been provided, so just know that those are there. We've asked Chief Carrier to lead us in our invocation and as well as our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand.
Would you bow with me, please? Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight, we do thank you, dear God, for all of your mercy, all of your grace. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings you've poured out upon us. We thank you, Lord, for the beautiful day that you've given us. And we pray, dear God, tonight that as we go through this council meeting, we ask, Lord, that you would just fill this place with your presence. Pray, Lord, that everything that's said and done here would honor, glorify, and uplift you and would help to move our community forward. We pray, Lord, for our council members. We ask, Lord, as they go through the agenda and items that affect so many different people in so many different ways, that you would give them your wisdom as they make the decisions to move our city forward. And we thank you, Lord, for this great place that Bristol is to live in and to work in. And we pray all this in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. If you would, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to move now to agenda items. Ms. Bourgeois, are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there are two additions, and they are under the first read ordinance section.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Did you get one? Have one? Do you think you want to have it? I'll just use this. All right. We have 3 recognitions and 8 proclamations tonight. Our first recognition is Communiversity, and John Luttrell, who's the Director of Community Relations, will present the program tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Bourgeois, Mayor Hutton, and members of council. So in this program, we refer to tonight's recognition as a graduation of sorts, though for the half of our students who are seniors this year, it's just one in a number of events this time of year ahead of the real commencement next week. But since we're feeling celebratory this evening, I will offer one quote that feels appropriate given the program these students are completing. It was actually originally offered by Apple CEO Tim Cook during his remarks to the graduates of Tulane University in 2019. He, of course, was referring to his own company, but I've adapted it to apply to our organization. He said, "There's a saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. At the city of Bristol, I learned that's a total crock. You'll work harder than you ever thought possible, but the tools will feel light in your hands." As our Communiversity participants explored a number of our city departments, I hope they gained some new perspectives and a deeper understanding of a couple of the things about our organization. First, about how challenging the work that we do actually can be. In local government, there's any number of challenges that we face any day. Some of us are literally putting out fires. Some of us are doing it metaphorically. But second, I hope they also learned about how passionate the people who work in our organization are about the work they do day in and day out. Now, in the interest of time this evening, I'll refrain from offering a full recap of the time they spent within the various city departments. To be certain, there was actually even more that we wish we could have done with the students this year, but there's only so much we can fit in one day per month, especially when snow shortens our schedule. I would, however, be remiss if I did not express a few words of thanks To Dr. Tudor and the rest of the Bristol, Tennessee City Schools Administration team for continuing to have faith that this program is a worthwhile use of student time away from the classroom and for entrusting us with their care. To Principal Kim Kirk, Andrew Cross, Brad Morlock, and the other Tennessee High staff for all of their help and guidance to navigate logistics and, most importantly, to continue recruiting a phenomenal group of students for this program. And lastly, to all of our city staff who gave so willingly of their time and efforts to create the best experiences possible for our students. So now, without any further ado, I present to you the Communiversity Youth and Public Service 2025 graduates. Would those who were able to join us this evening please stand and remain standing as I call your name. I'll call the names of all of our students. We've got a number of events this evening. There's a soccer game that took about a quarter of our students this evening. But I'll call all of their names. So Owen Bristol, Connor Brolio, Noah Brolio, Abby Cantor, Marley Fleming, Cooper Harris, Carrot Harris, Adeline Jones, Keegan Olson, Molly Claire Stallcup, Sophie Stallcup, and Nate Vane. Let's give a round of applause. At this time, I'd like to invite City Council and Ms. Bourgeois, along with any of our representatives from Bristol, Tennessee City Schools who are here this evening, to join us down front for a quick photo with our participants.
You just want us to sit closer?
You might be hungry. I'll need to balance out. See if it'll work. Congratulations.
Way to go. Well done. Only if you want to. It is a real treat for us to see so many of our students each year pour into that program. So, John, we're thankful for you and city staff for all of that. Thank you. So we're moving now to the Bristol First. John, you're presenting that as well.
Thank you once again, Mayor Hutton and members of council. The Bristol First Award program was first established in October of 2014 to recognize city employees for service to the public, leadership, service to other city employees, efficiency, creativity, and inventiveness. Tonight, we are pleased to add a new name to the list of honorees, who is nominated for recognition by Christian Baker of our Parks and Recreation Department, who is himself also a previous Bristol First honoree. I'll now read from the nomination information assembled by Ann Dunham from the Department of Community Relations based on Mr. Baker's accounts. As part of his daily work routine with the Department of Parks and Recreation, Ian Anderson noticed the same young man in the restroom at Rotary Park on multiple occasions. After striking up a conversation, Ian learned that the man had recently lost his job, could no longer afford his apartment, and was sometimes sleeping in the park restroom. Concerned that others might complain or dispose of the belongings stored there, Ian went to find the man and urge him to move along. When he entered the restroom, however, he found only a pair of worn-out socks that had been washed in the sink and hung up to dry. Using his own money, Ian purchased socks, T-shirts, and underwear for the man and then traveled across the city looking for him. When he finally located him at the Salvation Army, the young man explained that he had fallen on tough times but had recently found a place to stay and was actively seeking a job. He was sincerely grateful for the clothing Ian purchased for him and said it would help him to rebuild his life. In nominating Ian for the Bristol First Award, Christian noted that Ian is not comfortable being recognized for good deeds, but is constantly helping others. His concern for a stranger who had fallen on tough times is just one example of why he is deserving of the Bristol First Award. Mayor Hutton, if you wouldn't care to.
Before we move on, I know you don't like being recognized. I know this was uncomfortable for you. I know this is really uncomfortable for you, but hearing that you did that for somebody in this community is really fantastic. That is a testimony to a great heart and a great man who saw an opportunity to really love neighbor. And I'm very glad that we got to hear about that. I know you don't want recognition, but I'm so glad. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I just add in also that I work with Family Promise of Bristol that works with homelessness, has the day center at Salvation Army in partnership. And what you've done, if more people would do to see people as people and find out, I know sometimes it's scary when we don't know what people are like, but seeing somebody as a human being and treating them with respect is huge. So I hope that example will rub off for other people in our community and see what you've done and take that to heart. So thank you very, very much.
All right, we want to recognize Mark Quickle this evening, Director of Utilities, and his team for a very successful sanitary survey of the city's water system. And Mark is here to say a few words. We're grateful for Mr. Quickle and his work.
To save you all from hearing from me too many times this evening, I'm actually going to let the water plant superintendent, Eddie Keene, receive this. So, thank you.
Good evening. We actually were very surprised.
Can you adjust the mic a little bit? There you go.
Is this better?
Maybe it's not on.
Or we might need to turn it up. Is that possible?
Hello? There we go.
There we go,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank
got
you.
it. No, it's good.
We were very happy and pleasantly surprised to receive a 99 on our survey this time. Great score, and we can't thank you guys enough for everything you do to help support us to be able to achieve these scores and keep our facility running as smoothly and efficiently as possible. We have a very big staff across the city and multiple departments that take care of it, between distribution and New Line and the water plant. So it's a large entity that has many, many moving parts, and it takes a lot to keep it going. But we try to do the best and strive to give the best to everyone here. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you. I don't know.
Recognition? Sure. Hold on. Y'all are going to get your picture taken.
Okay, we're moving now on to proclamations this evening. Our first proclamation, Councilwoman Firerobbin will read the proclamation summary, and Ms. Sky Waller and Ms. Peyton Lynch with Apraxia Kids will accept the proclamation.
So our summary for this proclamation, and when we have a lot of proclamations, we try to take what's critical out of the proclamation to share. So May 14th, 2025 is hereby proclaimed Apraxia Awareness Day, and citizens of Bristol, Tennessee are encouraged to work within their communities to increase awareness and understanding of childhood apraxia of speech, a challenging speech disorder that affects 1 in 1,000 children. So we appreciate y'all working in this area, and we'll come up here for a picture, and you'll have a minute to say something afterwards.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be here and to be able to speak and raise awareness about apraxia. Apraxia is very rare. A lot of people have never heard of it before. And this is really meaningful to us because we are mamas of apraxia kiddos. So Peyton and I both have children with apraxia. CAS is also a current, yes, CAS is childhood apraxia speech. It's a rare neurological speech disorder that affects a child's ability to plan and coordinate the muscle movements needed for speech. There's a disconnect between their brain, their tongue, their lips, their jaw. They just don't work together in sync. Children with CAS know what they want to say, but their brain struggles to send correct signals to their mouths. Only 1 to 2 out of every 1,000 children are diagnosed with CAS, and because it's very rare and it's complex, and one of the main characteristics of apraxia is there's inconsistent errors. A child may be able to say something correctly one day and not be able to say it the next. So it gets missed a lot and it gets misdiagnosed. So my son, Mason, is 7 years old now, and he started speech therapy when he was 3. And at the time, we thought he was just delayed. We thought it was just a speech delay and would go to therapy and everything would work itself out. But after a year in speech, he still didn't really make a whole lot of progress, and we weren't really sure what to do at that point. So it came time for his yearly re-eval, and his speech therapist came out and said, hey, I think I missed something. And as a parent, that's not something that you really want to hear when you're relying on these people to help your kiddo. And so she said, I think Mason has childhood apraxia of speech. And I had never heard of that term. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know everything that went into what apraxia entailed. So I went home and I started researching. I got on the Apraxia Kids website. I got on different clinics and just tried to learn as much as I could to see how we could move forward and help him. We got in with a pediatric neurologist in Knoxville, and when he was 4 years old, he got his official apraxia diagnosis. So finally, after not having all these answers, we were able to get some answers, which was definitely a blessing, so we knew how to move forward. And he now gets speech therapy still. He gets it at school, he gets it at an outpatient facility, so intensive speech therapy is definitely the #1 thing that helps apraxia. So he started out being considered nonverbal at 4 years old. He was in a special needs pre-K, and after that, he was able to move to a general education kindergarten class, and now he's thriving in 1st grade and has plenty to say. And he's learned different skills with the therapy to be able to be heard and be understood, and he's learned patience when people don't understand him, and he's taught me patience also. So he's learned a whole lot. And Peyton's son also has similar apraxia experiences, so I'll let her talk about her son.
Thank you. I know we don't have much time, so I'll hurry up. But originally I wasn't going to speak tonight at all because public speaking is not my strong suit. But I realized that it made me look kind of selfish because that would make me look like a very good mom. When he's worked so hard, I wasn't going to do this, sorry, to earn his voice. So why would I sit there and not show him that all the work that he's put in is really worth it? He's 4. He's been in speech therapy for a year and a half. And when we first started, it was just like Sky's experience. I had no idea what it was, so I went home, researched it. At the next appointment, we got on the appropriate therapy track after 13 months of intensive speech therapy and several evaluations by other medical professionals. We finally got an official diagnosis, and now he has made great progress. So if you look at what he was doing a year ago, he's made amazing progress, and you'd realize how much all of the time that he's put in is worth it. So even though a proclamation may seem like a piece of paper to a lot of people, it means a lot to us and our families, especially our kiddos. They've put a lot into earning their voice, and they deserve this, and it means a lot to us. So by you all making the day, May 14th, CAS Awareness Day, it shows that all their hard work is worth it, and it makes them be able to, see that what we're doing means something. So we really appreciate it.
We do, we actually really do. I didn't know what apraxia was, and so I appreciate you all. That's the beauty of these proclamations, is that we get to learn a lot. So thank you both for sharing about your sons and how you're helping them get their voice. So thank you. That's awesome. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Councilwoman Fire-Robin will now read a proclamation summary. Ms. Samantha Gray will receive it. It's for Theater Bristol. She's Theater Bristol is Executive Director. Ms. Ann Vance, President of Theater Bristol Board of Directors, will accept the proclamation.
I think maybe it's Samantha will accept it.
Oh, Samantha's
so
here.
I'm looking at her
Okay.
out there. So I'm thrilled to be able to congratulate Theater Bristol for 60 years, and I'll start with saying a couple of us have seen the current show, Steel Magnolias. Maybe other people have too, but I know Ray and I have. Also, I know somebody sitting up here has been in Theater Bristol productions. Who might that be? At least one of us. Anyway, so Theater Bristol was founded in 1965 by Kathy DeCaterina, a Bristol native who studied music at Bristol's Sullins College at that time and went to New York's Juilliard School of Music. She came back home and started Theater Bristol for families and children. Theater Bristol has presented classic plays, musicals, held a playwright festival, debuted productions, and began partnering with original productions for Rivers Way in 2016 for actors with differing abilities. In 2025, Theater Bristol, that's just in the past couple of months, acquired the Cameo Theater and had their first play there, Land of Jesters and Rumpelstiltskin, and that's where Steel Magnolias is showing right now. This weekend, they still have tickets, and it may be one of the only two state theaters, as well as the oldest community children's theater in the state of Tennessee, and one of the oldest theaters in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And this is a joint proclamation with the mayors of Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia, recognizing and celebrating their 60th anniversary. And we really want to thank, it's a great place for families to participate, and it's great theater. If you have not been, it's pretty awesome, the talent we have in our community. So, Samantha?
Thank you so much, Council, on behalf of the board and the community. I'm the Theater Bristol Executive Director, as mentioned, Samantha Gray, and Ann sends her regrets. She had a birth in the family, so she couldn't be here at the last minute. But we love how much the council supports its community theater all of these years, these 60 years. The council recognized the theater's value and contributions to societal well-being, to our economy, to skill and confidence building, and so much enjoyment that is affordable and accessible to our community. And we invite everyone to get involved at the Art Space, the Paramount, and now the Cameo to see a show, audition, and volunteer all season for our upcoming plays like Steel Magnolias and musicals like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at Paramount Bristol, our camps and classes. Kathy would be so proud of this recognition. Thank you so much.
I don't mean to be speaking on all of these proclamations, but I will say, as someone who participated in Theater Bristol with my son as an adult, it was one of the most significant things I've ever done in my entire life. Being a part of the production of both Scrooge the musical and Les Mis with my son, and just the people was, I can't tell you how just powerful that was. And so I encourage anybody and everybody, to participate in the theater in some capacity. It's a profound experience. So thank you, Samantha, very much. We turn now to Small Business Week. Councilwoman Aker will read the proclamation, and Mrs. Maggie Elliott, the Executive Director of Believe in Bristol, will receive the proclamation.
Small businesses are the driving force of the American economy and the foundation of the nation's prosperity, built on the principles of hard work and the American dream. There are 31 million small businesses in the country, constituting 99% of private employers and generating almost two-thirds of new jobs in the U.S. Despite facing unprecedented challenges, small business owners have shown resilience and continued their commitment to serving American communities. The mayor proclaims the week of May 4th through May 10th as Small Business Week, and the mayor and council encourage the citizens of Bristol, Tennessee to support small businesses and celebrate their many achievements and contributions to the community.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and members of council and city staff. On behalf of Believe in Bristol and our downtown small business community, I want to thank you for this meaningful proclamation recognizing National Small Business Week. Small businesses are the heart of downtown and of Bristol. They're run by our neighbors, friends, families, people who pour their passion and purpose into building something that brings life to our city. Whether it's a new storefront just getting started or a family-run business that's been here for decades, each one plays a vital role in the character and economic health of our community. This week is a time to celebrate their contributions, but it's also a time to reaffirm our commitment to supporting them through policies, programs, and partnerships that help our small businesses grow and thrive. Thank you again for your continued support of small businesses in Bristol and for recognizing the essential role they play in shaping a vibrant, resilient local economy. Thank you.
Councilwoman Aker will now read a proclamation summary and regarding Drinking Water Week, and Mark Quickle, Director of Utilities, will receive the proclamation.
Water is our most valuable natural resource, with drinking water serving a vital role in daily life. Tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. The hard work performed by the entire water sector, providing high-quality drinking water from its source to consumers' taps, is to be commended. The citizens of Bristol are called upon to protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. The mayor hereby proclaims May 4th through May 10th Drinking Water Week.
As Eddie shared earlier, there are lots of hands that go into providing the high-quality water that we send to throughout the city. So that really starts with you all. So thank you, Council and Mayor, for your support and everything that you provide, and for all of the utility department. We appreciate this proclamation. We appreciate all that you have done, and we continue to strive to keep Bristol's water as clean as we can, keep receiving those high sanitary survey scores. So thank you all.
Councilwoman Powers will now read the proclamation for Historic Preservation Month. Ms. Karen Bateman, Ms. Becky Wilkerson, members of the Bristol Historic Preservation Awards Committee will receive the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. It's important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. The Bristol, Tennessee Historic Preservation Awards Committee, along with the Department of Community Development and Planning, continue to recognize the rehabilitation of historic residential and commercial structures, and hold a ceremony annually to celebrate the important work of helping to preserve part of the unique heritage of our community. The City Council encourages the recognition of and applauds the dedicated preservation efforts by individuals and property owners in promoting historic preservation. We live in such a beautiful community with so many valued historic structures. With this, the Mayor proclaims May 25th as Historic Preservation Month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Bristol, Tennessee first implemented the Historic Preservation Awards program in 2018. This year is the second year of the joint program with the Bristol, Virginia Historic Preservation Awards Committee. The Bristol, Tennessee Historic Awards categories are Downtown Commercial Historic District, Holston Avenue Neighborhood Historic District, that's where I live, and Becky as well. Fairmount Historic District, Citywide, which is for people that are outside of designated historic districts but still deserve recognition. And also there's a Stewardship Award, which we give to somebody for special recognition for the efforts that they've made on their property. The Bristol Historic Committee members are Deborah Kennedy, Susan Tanner, Rebecca Wilkerson, Lucia Schneider, Maggie Elliott, Mickey Mataraj, and Andrew Schneider, and myself. Awards are chosen because properties exhibit commitment to sensitive restorations, repairs, compatible building additions, and overall quality of restoration work. The awards have a positive impact on the community and on historic resources of Bristol and help preserve the history for the future. The winners will serve as an inspiration for other preservation projects and in all the historic districts and beyond. The 2025 Joint Bristol, Tennessee and Virginia Historic Program Awards, Preservation Awards, ceremony will begin at 5:30 on Thursday, May 15th at the Steel Creek Park Lodge. The committee would like to invite City Council members and the mayor to attend the celebration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Powers will read the proclamation for National Police Week, and Chief Matt Austin will receive the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. There are more than 750,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Bristol, Tennessee Police Department. There were 79,091 assaults against law enforcement officers in 2023, resulting in approximately 22,063 injuries. There are 345 new names of fallen heroes being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring. Tragic, including 145 officers killed in 2024. The Peace Officers Memorial Day annual candlelight vigil will be held May 13th, 2025. The mayor formally designates May 11th through 17th, 2025 as Police Week and May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the city of Bristol, Tennessee, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation. Chief?
Good evening, and I would again like to thank you all for recognizing us. And we look at the community that we live in. We're pretty fortunate that we work together so well as a partnership. You know, this proclamation means a lot because, again, we come together to remember and recognize those across the nation who have given the ultimate sacrifice in serving the people of their communities. We look together as we've lost some here in our community. And again, these recognitions is not only just for them, but their families who recognize that we still stand with them and we have not forgotten them, and that we appreciate them and for the sacrifices that they have given also from the family. I'm proud of the men and women of the Bristol Police Department as we stand together as a community, working together to provide a safe and healthy environment for all of us to live. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, Vice Mayor Turner will read the proclamation for EMS Services Week, and Fire Captain Austin Simpson will receive the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Emergency medical services is a vital public service, and access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. In recognition of the value and accomplishments of emergency medical service providers, the Mayor of Bristol, Tennessee proclaims May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The theme of this year's EMS Week is We Care. For everyone, we care for everyone. City Council encourages the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you, Mayor Hutton and council members, for this proclamation recognizing May 18th through the 24th as National EMS Week in Bristol, Tennessee. Calendar year 2024 ended with 6,300 calls for service, 4,700 of those being EMS related, and 3,700 of those being ambulance transports to local hospitals. These numbers reflect not only that our skills are tested daily, but also shows the importance of EMS in our community. At the Bristol Fire Department, we pride ourselves in providing the highest level of service to the community and are constantly updating our training in accordance with the latest technology to maintain that skill level, all because we care for everyone. Thank you again for the proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Vice Mayor Turner will read a proclamation for the National Public Works Week. Brian Ramsey, Director of Public Works, will be present to receive the proclamation.
Public works professionals focus on providing and maintaining infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Bristol. The Mayor of Bristol, Tennessee proclaims May 18th through the 24th as National Public Works Week. All citizens are urged to join in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and advance quality of life for all.
Thank you, Mayor Hutton, Council. On behalf of the Public Works Department, I'm honored to accept this proclamation for National Public Works Week. I'd like to recognize our dedicated teams in operations, which includes our streets department, solid waste, transit, stormwater, engineering, and also our water and sewer departments. Every day, these departments work together to keep Bristol's infrastructure running smoothly, whether it's maintaining the streets and right-of-way, collecting your garbage, transporting our citizens via our transit system, or providing high-quality H2O. Our teams are there to answer the call. Just thank you for your support and for recognizing the important work our staff does for the city of Bristol. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Appreciate that very much. We have no presentations this evening, so we'll move now to a Board of Education liaison report. Dr. Tudor.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. I'd like to start, I don't know if Mr. Luttrell is still here, but I'd like to mimic what you all said in thanking him. He's really, as you know, the person behind Communiversity. It was his inception. He's the one who created that program, and he's the one who makes it a success. So without him, I'm sure it wouldn't be what it is. We appreciate the opportunity. It excites me every year when I get to talk to the students, and they truly enjoy the opportunities that they have. It's a great experience for them, and really it's all what we're about is preparing students for their futures, and that's a great way for us to do that. So thank you for your partnership in that, but obviously thank you to John Luttrell for what he does to organize that. I'd also like to take a moment. We coincidentally have a couple of teachers in the audience. I didn't tell them I was going to do this, but I'm going to make them stand because we are actually celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. So we have a few teachers stand. They're embarrassed that I did that, I'm sure, but thank you for your service. We also are celebrating today started Nurse Appreciation Week. So obviously we have school nurses, but also healthcare professionals in the community. We want to recognize them as well for their contributions. And then lastly, I'd just like to share end of year stuff. You know that it's very busy this time of year. We completed TCAP testing and TN Ready testing last week. AP testing is this week. Class night is Thursday, May 8th. Senior walk is next week, May 15th. Tennessee High graduation is next Friday, May 16th. TOPS graduation on the 17th. And then, of course, elementary and middle school have award ceremonies dispersed throughout that. All that information is on our website. So invite you all to any or all of those things, and just wanted to share that information with you. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say that we've got two board members that also have been teachers to recognize them as well, Debbie Darnell and Jim Butcher. So thank y'all for your contributions, and also Dr. Tudor for your contributions. And
Deidre's here.
And Deidre's, where is Deidre?
She's right there.
She's back there too. You were hiding. So you were there earlier. So yeah, thank all of y'all. Also for creativity, the walk that's which I've not witnessed that, but I've seen pictures, and I think that's just so special to walk through the elementary schools that kids attended, and what that does to set the example. I think it's very special. So thank you.
We have two public hearings on tonight's agenda. The first is for ordinance 25-7. It's an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Bristol, Tennessee by designating certain property as R2, single family and duplex, 247, 251, and 261 Bellbrook Road. This public hearing is hereby open for ordinance 25-7. Ms. Young will present.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Hutton, City Council members. Tonight you were here with the public hearing for a property that's located on Bellbrook Road. This property actually has three road frontages, Bellbrook, Raytheon, and Wessex Drive. The applicant is Mr. Marty Parker, and then Lawrence and Vicki Jones. Here on the screen, it kind of looks like three parcels here, but it's technically just one that's split by Wessex Drive, and then a second here. Here are just a couple of drone photos of the property. And then I have just a couple comparative slides just to explain why the request to go from R1A, which is a single-family zone, to an R2 zone, single-family and duplex zone. Mr. Parker purchased the property, and in speaking with staff, expressed his desire to subdivide the parcels to make the two parcels truly two parcels. In talking with him, we realized that there are some parcels here that don't meet the minimum requirements of the R1A zone, and to further develop the properties, the R2 zone would be more suitable. So R1A and R2 are very similar in their permitted uses. The R2 zone does allow for duplexes. Where they begin to differ is in the minimum lot size. So the R2 zone allows a lesser lot size, so a comparison of 14,520 square feet in R1A down to 7,500 square feet in R2. Additionally, you have some setback variations. So the R2 setbacks allow for a larger building envelope, so they will have a little more flexibility to site new single-family homes on their parcel. This is an excerpt of the future land use map, and the red square here shows the area that we have been looking at for the rezoning request. This entire area shows as low-density residential classification on the future land use map, so staff felt that this was in line with keeping with the rezoning request. This was presented to the Planning Commission back in March 17th. The Planning Commission did vote to send a favorable recommendation to City Council on the request. It's passed at first reading, and now we're here for the public hearing that was advertised as required. Be happy to answer any questions.
Would anyone in the audience like to address the council on this matter? Seeing no one, this public hearing is now closed. Resolution 25-47, it's a resolution adopting a community development block grant 2526. It's a consolidated plan and a 2526 action plan, and approving submission of the consolidated plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to request CDBG grant funding and home funding in 2526. This public hearing is hereby open for Resolution 25-47. Tyler Gillenwater will present.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Hutton and members of council. This is the public hearing for the 5-year consolidated plan for our CDBG and home programs. As a recipient of CDBG and home, we are required every 5 years by HUD to submit this consolidated plan. It is designed to help states and local jurisdictions to assess their affordable housing and community development needs and market conditions, and to make data-driven, place-based investment decisions. The plan does include a needs assessment, a market analysis, and a strategic plan. And then the plan itself does include the 2025 one-year action plan, which will have the projects and the funding that are associated to those plans. So a summary of the objectives and outcomes identified in the plan needs assessment overview: expansion of first-time home ownership opportunities for low-income households, expand opportunities to qualified low-income homeowners to rehabilitate their homes to correct minor and major code violations, expand rental housing opportunities for qualified low-income households, develop transitional and supportive housing for at-risk individuals and families, develop new single-family housing units within the consortium to meet demand, and revitalize neighborhoods by improving housing stock and removing dilapidated structures. So a summary of the citizen participation and consultation process: we held our first public hearing in September of 2024 at our Community Development Advisory Committee meeting. We did post a survey that was open to like Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City. We did that in January of this year. We received 98 responses. We advertised both of our public hearings as required. The second public hearing is now. And then 2 30-day public comment periods were made available, so from September to October of 2024. And then the one that we're in now was posted April 15th, and it'll end on May 15th. So this is the one-year action plan that's included in the consolidated plan. So for CDBG, we are expecting to receive $225,502. We get this number based off of what we got this current year. $146,576.30 will go into our housing rehab program. We're projecting right now to have about $100,000 in carryover that will roll back into our housing rehab. Public service funding, which would go to YWCA and Family Promise. We have that $33,825.30. And then just to administer the program itself, we have $45,100.40. So a total grant that we're expecting to receive for this year is $225,502, and that's for the CDBG program. Then we get down to the home program, and we're expecting to receive $1,057,104.78. And so we split our admin cost with First Tennessee Development District because there's so much to handle. We give them 6.5% and Bristol, Tennessee 3.5% admin. Our community housing development organizations, so like Eastern 8 and People's Incorporated, they'll get 15% of the funding at $158,565.72. So all three of those are taken off the top before we actually start sub-allocating to the individual jurisdictions. Bluff City would get $10,000. Bristol, Tennessee would receive $86,111.14. Bristol, Virginia would receive $70,454.57. Johnson City at $211,363.70. Kingsport at $180,050.61. Sullivan County at $133,080.86. And then Washington County, Tennessee at $101,767.70. And then right now we're estimating a program carryover of $2.8 million. And so if that money does get carried over, it would go back into each jurisdiction's pot of money, and then they can decide if it goes to home ownership or rehab or reconstruction as well. And then the plan is available. You can come to my office. You can go online at bristoltennessee.org. You can go to the Slater Community Center, which is here out front, the Bristol Public Library, and again, we are doing our public comment period right now. That is all.
Thank you. Does any member of the audience like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, this public hearing is now closed. Thank you. Moving now to our appearance of citizens. At this time provides an opportunity for the public to address to the council any matter of city business. A response will not likely be made at this time, since in most cases neither the council nor the city manager will be prepared to effectively respond to the concern. The city manager will look into the matter and report back to council, or as appropriate, have staff meet with you in an effort to satisfy your concern. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual and are not transferable to other individuals. Groups are encouraged to select a spokesperson to represent them. I've been provided a list of individuals to address council this evening. At this point, I have Mr. John Paul Link. Is he here? John here? Oh, he had to leave. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Public comment then is now closed. All right. Would any other member of the audience like to address council at this moment? It's an opportunity. Okay. Thank you. Moving now to appointments. Community Development Advisory Committee. We have 2 candidates for 2 open positions on the Community Development Advisory Committee, Ella Kane and Steve Willinger. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
I can speak. Both of them are incumbents, and they provide great service for that board. Ella Kane, both of them also serve on our housing authority, so that makes it nice for that overlap, so that they bring things back and forth from those 2 committees.
All right, we've marked our ballots.
Okay. We have ballots. Mayor Hutton has Ella Kane and Stephen Willinger. Councilwoman Akert has Ella Kane and Stephen Willinger. Councilwoman Feierabend has Ella Kane and Stephen Willinger. Vice Mayor Turner has Ella Kane and Stephen Willinger. And Councilwoman Powers has Ella Kane and Stephen Willinger.
Thank you. We have 5 ordinances on first reading to consider tonight. The first is ordinance 25-8. It's an ordinance fixing the rates charged for water sold by the city of Bristol, Tennessee. Ms. Bourgeois will present.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we have discussed for a number of months now, the City Council last year set an increase to water rates just as to get us by while we had MTS do a complete rate study for us. Water rates have not increased beyond what was done as that incremental measure for quite some time, and we were in jeopardy of going negative in that enterprise balance. And in going negative, if we do that for 2 consecutive years, the state can come in and take over that fund for us and start charging the rates that are necessary to bring our fund into a balanced state. So you do have ordinance number 25-8 in front of you tonight. We had discussed this ordinance at last week's work session and making recommendations to increase water rates for both inside city users at a 10% increase and outside city users at a 20% increase effective July 1 for fiscal year 2026. They would then increase by 5% each year thereafter through 2030, actually through 2029. And then moving forward, July of 2030 beyond, we would increase or decrease rates based on the index that's set out by the Americas City and County. They put out an index every year. If that should go away, we would use a similar index. So again, you do have ordinance 25-8 making those adjustments to the water rates.
Does council have any questions for Ms. Bourgeois? Is there a motion to take action on ordinance 25-8?
I move to approve ordinance 25-8 for fixing the rates charged for water.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would anyone in the audience want to address council on this matter? Seeing none, we have a motion and second. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say we had a good coverage of what the study was and how it was conducted, and we've actually looked at it a couple different times with some different solutions. It's not fun to look at raising rates. I'm very glad, thank you, Mark Quickle, for our good rating that usually is very good. We have great service. We're really proud of that service. And that's really good that we got that report right now because we are talking about significantly raising our utility rates. And the good news is that we've enjoyed some pretty good rates for a period of time. And now it's time to look at really moving us forward, and that's on several things that we are working on. So not just our utility rates as we move forward. So we appreciate our citizens trying to learn, and I think we also appreciate our community relations and John Luttrell and his team as they try to help people understand where we're coming from and why things happen the way that they do.
I've just got, I guess, if I'm reading this, because I wasn't at the Tuesday work session, but the way I understand, part of this, of the increase is we're not charging for the first 1,000 gallons of water used. There was no charge for that. And so part of this increase is going to be we're charging from zero. There's not the 1,000 gallons.
Correct.
At no charge anymore.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
But there's no basic rate, right? We had a basic minimum.
There's a base rate. It's a monthly fee, service fee, and then you get charged for all of the gallons used.
Right.
Increments of 100 gallons, which if you're a small user, that's a benefit, so you're not paying for that full 1,000 gallons up front.
Okay.
Great. We have a motion and second. At a discussion, Mary Lee will please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Robin?
Yes.
Hutton?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Akard?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Ordinance 25-9 is an ordinance fixing the rates charged for sanitary sewer service provided by the City of Bristol, Tennessee. Ms. Bourgeois?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is very similar. MTS did the rate study on they did a study on water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and refuse. So this setting the sanitary sewer rates runs consistent with what the water rate increases were. MTS provided a number of scenarios. We did ask them to go back and revise and provide new scenarios. This is a version of their case 6 scenario with some tweaks to try and balance out the impact to our users. So what we are recommending with ordinance 25-9 is, again, an increase to inside city residents by 10% and outside by 20%, and then increases up 5% per year through 2029, and then again following the municipal cost index put out by the America City and County moving forward, and that will adjust whichever way. It could go up or down. One thing I will point out that staff discussed with City Council the potential for eliminating the minimum 2,000 inside or 3,000 outside gallon charge per billing. We did have to remove that. It had a significantly negative effect on the ending balance, and we weren't able to balance that out. So the billing would stay as we are currently billing as far as the minimum gallons, but those rates would increase by those percentages outlined. And this would, again, be proposed to be effective the first billing of July in 2025 for fiscal year 2026.
Any questions of council for Ms. Bourgeois? Is there a motion to take action on ordinance 25-9?
I'll move to approve ordinance 25-9 for fixing the rates charged for sanitary sewer service.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Seeing none? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to point out that ordinance 25-9 does not address two issues. Ms. Bourgeois, would you like to speak to that? The two issues that this does not necessarily address, it's in regard to TDEC's order.
Oh, yes, thank you. So we are under a director's order by TDEC based on some exceedances at the wastewater treatment plant. Those are primarily related to inflow and infiltration, I&I. We are in the process of studying our watersheds right now. There will very likely be, we would be shocked if there were not, significant pipe improvements that will be needed moving into the future. We have included numbers in the capital improvements plan for those, but right now we are very unclear as to what those numbers will look like because we just don't have the study data back yet. So this will likely have to be revisited once we have that I&I information, but just currently for general operating, we don't have enough to balance that fund either, so we did have to move forward with the operating increases right now.
I think that's important to note that we're not finished with this just yet.
Yes, thank you.
And you had already
Lee,
mentioned...
can you pull your microphone down a little
Yep.
bit? Thanks.
And you had already mentioned that the second, at the April 29th work session, staff discussed with us the possibility of removing the requirement for minimum bills for sanitary sewer, the 2,000, 3,000 that you had mentioned. So the one thing that we had not yet really spoken about is the first as a result of TDEC's order. So I just think it's important that the public understand that while we are doing what we're doing in regard to the rates currently, that does not mean that this will continue to cover what we will need to comply with TDEC's requirements. And so my understanding is that that is being studied, and that will be more information that will come to us at a later date.
That is correct. And something to add to that, right now, so we have our joint wastewater system with Bristol, Virginia Utilities, and we pay for the treatment based on a percentage usage right now. they have been doing I&I projects, so their volume of usage is going down. So we are having to pick up a larger percent of total wastewater operations. When we are able to get our I&I work done, what we're doing right now is we're paying to treat groundwater or stormwater that is getting into our pipes. And so when we are able to do those I&I projects, we will have less wastewater that we will have to treat as well. So these are long-term, they're significant capital improvements, but they will have long-term benefits to our operations and our finances on the backside of that.
Right.
But we're a number of years away from seeing those all come into fruition.
So no pun intended, but this is very fluid, right?
Correct.
Is that we're addressing it on a need of annually, but it's very complicated, and it has a lot of moving parts. And so we rely on the information that we get from studies over and over again. And so just want to make everyone aware that it's not just an increase, it is an increase along with the study in an effort to be able to potentially decrease at some point. But for now, until we have all the data and then can implement what needs to be done based on the data, this is our best path forward. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right. Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Robin?
Yes.
Hutton?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes, ma'am.
Akerd?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
We have ordinance 25-10. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, General Provisions Relating to Zoning, Chapter 3, Residential Districts, and Chapter 4, Business Districts of the zoning ordinance to include requirements for the orientation of residential structures located within such districts. Ms. Young will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor Hutton. Ordinance 25-10 is an ordinance that we're bringing to you from the Planning Commission. They prompted the work on this ordinance, desiring to have a residential orientation standard that could apply to residences across the board, across all zones in the city. We currently have this concept in our zoning ordinance. It's in our RE, or established residential district. We added that several years ago. So we use that as our starting point, as our starting point for the language to develop this ordinance, and are simply proposing to include the RE language, which requires a entryway on the front facade of a home that faces the public right-of-way. So replicating the same language that we have in our RE district now, adding it into Chapter 2, which is a general chapter that applies to all zones. We would also add as a caveat the ability for the Planning Commission to approve a deviation from the requirement, and that is because we know that there could be some situations out there where maybe someone would site their house to take advantage of a view, some sort of natural amenity, or maybe have a house that's designed in a way that the front door's not desired to be on the front of the home. So there is the ability for the Planning Commission to approve a deviation. As Mayor Hutton read in the summary, this does impact Chapter 2 of the zoning ordinance. That's where the requirement will live. But we'll also amend Chapters 3 and 4 so that the development standards chart that most of us use to just have a snapshot of what the rules are is also amended to include a cross-reference so that we'll hopefully be able to have staff, developers, people who are building, always see that that requirement is in place.
Any questions of council for Ms. Young? Is there a motion to take action on ordinance 25-10?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion among council?
I know we talked some at our work session, but I do like the flexibility for how the lot lies, and also we talked about Charleston and some other places that have side porches as their main entrance, et cetera. So I like that it has flexibility within the ordinance.
Any other discussion? Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Robin?
Yes.
Hutton?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Akerd?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
We We have ordinance 25-11. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, general provisions relating to zoning, Section Z219, temporary uses of the zoning ordinance to include the ability to conduct limited temporary commercial uses on certain property. Ms. Young will present again.
Thank you again. Tonight, the first reading of this ordinance, the proposal is to add a section, again, to that Chapter 2, that general chapter of requirements, to allow for a temporary use, a temporary commercial use. This would be in response to Mr. Travis Royston bringing us a project or an idea forward for his parcel, which is about 20 acres on Sweet Knobs Trail. It actually has a Highway 394 address, but it's accessed by Sweet Knobs Trail. Mr. Royston purchased the property. There is no easy, no close, no efficient access for public sanitary sewer on this parcel. So his request and his discussion or proposal to the Planning Commission was to amend the ordinance in some way to allow him to utilize his property for some sort of special event or temporary use of the property until that sewer connection could be established. The Planning Commission heard this idea in March and tasked staff to come up with some options to potentially provide a solution for this. We went back with an option to amend Chapter 2, and that's to add in a temporary use allowance when there is no permanent structure on the parcel. I do have a map here, and I know this is hard to see, but the parcel that we've started discussion on this ordinance with is right here. This was presented to the Planning Commission in April. They did vote a majority to send a favorable recommendation to the City Council on the proposal, but it was a 5-4 vote. Here is the text, and I know this is very hard to read, but this does lay out the procedures and the process for something like this to be approved. It's very standardized in terms of it only applies to parcels that are greater than an acre that are zoned B3 and have no permanent structure on site. So if the property owner could meet that first benchmark, then we would work through the process with them to establish the temporary use. The Planning Commission would have the authority to approve the site plan, and then they would have a limited number of times per year that they could hold an event. I know we went through this in some detail at work session, but I'm happy to go back through any point or elaborate further on anything council would like.
Council have any questions for Ms. Young?
I would, I do. So, Margaret, if you like the last one, you love this one because it has a lot of flex in it. Capital E, letter E, temporary commercial uses are subject to plot plan review and approved by the Planning Commission, approval by the Planning Commission. So if something comes and does it have specific criteria that if it meets that, it doesn't make any difference whether the Planning Commission approves it or not? Or does the Planning Commission have true discretion as to approval?
So the Planning Commission has, so staff would take in the plot plan. We would make sure that it addresses all of the questions in this ordinance. So under item E has some minimum items that the plot plan would have to show. So site features, access to water, waste disposal facilities, trash, provision of fire extinguishers, all of those things. Other details is required, so there may be some that we might be specific to a certain use or another. So we would have that caveat for other details as required. Depending on the use, the Planning Commission can add additional conditions, but I think they would need to have a good reason for denying if the plan met all the criteria. It is going to only be for permitted uses in that same zone. So you could only permit a temporary use that is also allowed as a permanent use in the B3 zone.
So are portalets permissible based on the number of projected participants?
That would be for the temporary use only.
Temporary use only. And then if you go to the back, item G, Once the plot plan is approved by the Planning Commission, Community Development staff will issue the permit per each event. So each event has to be approved by the Planning Commission.
So the way that this is drafted, the planning commission would approve the overall
Use,
project.
yeah.
Then the staff could issue the permit 6 times a year, so it wouldn't be issued like on a, big picture forever and ever basis.
Right.
But it would have to comply with what the planning commission had approved.
Right.
So if it deviated, if it changed in the way it's laid out, if it changed in the type use, it would have to go back to the planning commission for approval.
So to be specific, such operations are limited, as you said, to 6 events per year for periods of 14 or less consecutive days per event. And it's to be considered temporary. The operation shall have a period of inactivity for at least 24 hours. So there could be 6 back-to-back events lasting 14 days each, as long as there's a 24-hour period between each event.
Correct. The only clearing is the 24 hours between events as written right now.
Correct. So could they have the same event, shut it down for 24 hours, and then have the same event again? It doesn't have to be a different event. It could be an event for 14 days, shut it down for 24 hours, and then come back for 14 more days.
As written, yes, ma'am.
As written, okay. A period of inactivity is established by the clearance of all temporary structures, products for sale, or any other feature that is not otherwise allowed in the district without a building permit. So any temporary structures, the products that may be for sale, or any other feature, that has to be cleared during that 14-hour period.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The only thing that we would allow to remain on site, if it was something that we don't require a building permit for, maybe a fence, a sign that would otherwise be permitted. So those would be the things we wouldn't expect to have to be removed, but anything that's related to that temporary use would need to be cleared off the site for the 24-hour period.
Right. So the crux of this, to just nail it down, is that it's 6 events per year, 14 days in length, with a 24-hour of rescission period between each event.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Young? Is there a motion to take action on ordinance 25-11?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, I'll just say that I think on this one, and I, of course, was in this planning commission meeting, and I support both of these. I think that this piece of property of not having readable access to the sewer in a corridor that is, the state spent a lot of money on putting 394 in, and having access and what we have going on in our industrial park and the Bristol Motor Speedway of where it sits, and the new substation that's going on 394, and of not having access or reasonable access to city sewer, I think this is a temporary fix until there is some type of sewer there, which at that point, then I think of what's wanting to go onto this piece of property, that if they got access to sewer, which I would, I think, pay the extra to get access to sewer, because at that point, this same business could operate 365 days a year and do exactly what they're asking, what is being presented here for 6 14-day periods through the week, so through the year. I think that we have, I know there was talking, once again, apologize, I'm not being at work session, but I guess there was some talk of actually sending this back to planning, and I will say, of being in the planning commission, if it goes back to planning, I don't know that of staff that there is anything else that of changing within this. And then if it goes to planning, then, and maybe Danielle or Sheriff, you can tell me if I'm incorrect on this. Once it goes to, if it does go back to planning, then if planning at that point, they do not send a favorable recommendation back to council of any changes, then it would go to BZA. Then the BZA, if they refuse, they turned it down, then it would go to Chancery Court, correct? Is that the process that this would?
No, not necessarily. I think the Planning Commission would have the opportunity to look at this ordinance again, and any comments that City Council makes tonight certainly could be considered by the Planning Commission. And if the Planning Commission doesn't vote to send this back to City Council, this ordinance is dead. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, Mr. Royston does have an appeal pending before the BZA, but that's a completely separate matter from this ordinance.
Right, but then he would go to, if this was, if it was sent back to planning, then he would have the opportunity to go to BZA to.
Not on this ordinance. His appeal before the BZA is on the existing zoning ordinance, on provisions of the existing ordinance.
Right.
And he still has that appeal pending, so that
Right.
is out there.
And then if that was, then it would go to.
He could,
He could
depending
take
on the outcome, he could appeal to BZA.
Right.
Or, you know, the city could even appeal to BZA if the city didn't like the outcome of that. So
Right.
that's hard to predict.
I'll weigh in also that listening to the discussion, the presentation and discussion at our work session, also continuing to look at this, I'm going to vote no tonight. I think it's trying really hard to make something work that's not really in the best interest of working. So I'm going to vote no for the current motion.
Danielle, we have legislation to some degree from 2009 that talks about the requirements for us to provide sewer. And in it, can you expand on that?
Well, the city has its own sewer ordinance, which it has adopted years ago, that provides that if you're within city limits and you're within 200 feet of sewer, you are required to connect to the sewer at the expense of the property owner. This property is not within that 200 feet of a public city sewer. It's farther away than that. So I think that may be what you're talking about.
Well, and in reading through that, it made mention of, for us to extend sewer for a much longer line. As in this case, it would have to come from White Top Creek Park down near the, can you expand on that?
So I'm far from the expert on where those lines would go, but I know there was talk of there could be potentially two ways to go. One would be going under 394 and connecting to the line that runs sort of at the bottom of White Top Creek Park past the baseball fields, and the other, I think, would be going along 394 and connecting past the Speedway. I'm looking at Brian Ramsey because he might know better, but both of those are, my understanding is both of those are very expensive.
And for the city to be required to do that, the proposed business that would take on the property would have to show some degree of benefit.
That is sort of the city doesn't have a requirement to extend the sewer at its own cost. Right. The property owner is generally required to connect to the sewer at their expense.
Right.
If there's a benefit, I mean, there could be situations where the city does a TIF, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but
This hasn't been part of this.
no, not.
So I think it's really important when we get into these planning discussions to remember that whatever we do can set a precedence for other properties. It also, whatever we do, it follows the property, not the owner. Whatever we do is attached to the property itself. It's not a privilege of the owner. So the thing that in talking about this is that it's 6 times a year, 14 days. We've worked for over 18 months to get B3 to a certain place, and this kind of takes us down a different path that's in conflict with what we've tried to work towards.
Is there any more discussion on this matter? All right. Seeing none, Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Robin,
No.
Hutton,
No.
Powers,
No.
Akerd,
No.
Turner.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on now to ordinance 25-12. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Business Districts, Section Z 405, B3 District General Business Zone of the zoning ordinance to include recreational vehicle and boat storage facility as a use permitted by a special use permit in the B3 zone. Ms. Young will present this item.
Mayor, before we go forward, I'm sorry. You know, I struggle with Robert's rules sometimes. If we wanted to make, if we don't have a motion to send it back to planning, then it goes no further.
It's dead.
Is there a desire to send it back to planning?
Which one are you talking about?
2511.
2511.
No.
I think, the motion was to send it with a favorable, to pass it as it came from planning. I mean, it's, for this point, that ordinance is done.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Ms. Young?
Thank you, Mayor Hutton. The next item, ordinance 25-12, similar neighboring property, different individual that's prompted this discussion and different goal and outcome for them. They've approached the Planning Commission about adding back in a permitted, or as it turns out, special use permit use to allow for an RV and boat storage use in the B3 zone. We discussed this with the Planning Commission in March and in April, and in April there was a vote, positive recommendation to City Council on a 5-3 to 1 vote from the Planning Commission. This ordinance adds into the B3 zone the provision for a special use permit for RV and boat storage. It has some pretty stringent conditions on it so that the RVs and boats that are stored in a potential location would be operable, working, that there would be no associated activities as in sales or repair on the use or on the parcel. The Planning Commission did add an item into the ordinance, so they amended it to say that the parcel must be accessed by Sweet Knobs Trail, and this is in addition to the staff drafted provisions that the parcel also be over an acre, Zone B3, and without access to sanitary sewer. So the amended version coming to you tonight does have that Sweet Knobs Trail provision in it. We discussed this quite a bit at the work session, and the map provided showed that there would be about 5 or 6 parcels that could be impacted. But that is the summary of this special use permit in the B3 zone for RV and boat storage.
Great. Any questions of council for Ms. Young? Okay.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? All right, there's no second. So this motion dies for lack of a second. That's right. All right. Okay. We have 2 ordinances for second reading tonight. Ordinance 25-6, it's an ordinance to amend Chapter 74, Utilities, Article 2, Sewers and Sewer Disposal, Division 5, Discharge Regulations of the Code of Ordinances to upgrade the limits on various pollutants. This item was presented by Mr. Quickle earlier at last month's meeting, and he will give a brief overview tonight. Mr. Quickle.
So, as you said, this is the second reading. There's not been any changes to the local limits. One point that I'm not sure I made the first go-around was because the wastewater plant is co-owned, operated by us and Bristol, Virginia Utility Authority. They did also have to pass these same local limits for their users. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Quickle on this matter? Is there a motion to approve ordinance 25-6?
Motion to approve ordinance 25-6.
Second.
All right, there's a motion. Anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Seeing none. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. Mary Lee, can you call the roll, please?
Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Ordinance 25-7 is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Bristol, Tennessee by designating certain property as R2, single-family and duplex at 247, 251, and 261 Bellbrook Road. This item was presented by Ms. Young during the public hearing this evening, and the public had an opportunity to comment during that period. Any questions for Ms. Young on this matter? No? Is there a motion to approve ordinance 25-7?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No? Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
We have 5 resolutions for consideration tonight. First, resolution 25-47. It's a resolution adopting a community development block grant action plan, approving the submission of the action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to request CDBG grant funding and home funding in 2024. This item was presented by Mr. Gilliwater during the public hearing earlier this evening. The public had an opportunity to comment during that public hearing. Are there any questions of council for Mr. Gilliwater? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2547?
Motion to approve 2547 for the Community Development Block Grant Action Plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mary Lee, will you please call the roll?
Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Resolution 25-48 is next. It's a resolution amending the solid waste collection and disposal fees. City Manager Kelly Bourgeois will present.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As discussed with the water and sewer rate discussions earlier this evening, MTAS also did a rate review of our solid waste collection and disposal fees. And again, similar to our water and sanitary sewer rates, our solid waste collection rates are not keeping up with our expenses. We've been subsidizing through general fund dollars that fund for a couple of years now. The recommendation that MTAS put out is, again, a little bit different than what we're going with. We're trying to balance out the impact to residents and still making sure we have enough funds to cover the costs for landfill disposal and then collection with all of our equipment and staff. The recommendation in Resolution 25-48 is to increase the per month per container fee by $2 to $18.50, to eliminate the discount for second and subsequent cans, and then to keep the per resident household can fee at $9 per month for our property tax relief program participants, but any second and subsequent cans for them would also go to the $18.50 per month, which would be our standard rate. Additionally, we offer right now curbside bulk collection. Those rates, we allow for up to 2 grapple loads per pickup. We are recommending that we continue to do that. We will be analyzing how we provide that service moving forward, but nothing changing right now on that. However, right now we do bill $4 per grapple over that 2 grapples. We are recommending that that be increased to $6, and it would be clarifying that our grapples are per billing cycle. Right now, that is just a nebulous verbiage in our ordinance. We want to make that very clear. Additionally, we are recommending the increase for the price per tire to go to $6, and that's in excess of the 4 tires that we currently allow to be picked up for no cost. And again, clarifying the language that that would be per billing cycle. This would again be setting future rates at the MCI, the Municipal Cost Index, as established by the American City and County entity, and that would be effective July 1, 2026 and moving forward. So this is setting rates for July 1 of 2025, and then any adjustments would just be based on that index moving into the future. And again, it can go up, it could go down. I had one more item, and I just completely lost it. I lost it. But that is what is before you tonight.
Any questions of council for Ms. Bourgeois? None? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2548?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone in the audience like to discuss, address council on this matter? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, like the thumb sketch. So if I'm looking at this correctly, it's $9 per month per residential household.
For property tax relief customers.
Oh, that's for the property tax, okay,
Yes.
because I saw $18.50 per month per container.
That's for our regular customers.
Okay, and then the relief is $9 per month, $18.50 for the second.
Right, and the
Gotcha.
nine is what we're currently billing for those
Right.
for the first can. The difference will be that the second and subsequent cans are going to the regular rate of $18.50.
But that's only through the property tax relief.
$9 per can is only for property tax relief customers,
Okay.
yes.
All right, just wanted to make sure I had that straight. Thank you.
Well, I'll say it's probably not I was one that, way back, I guess, when we first started this, of myself personally, I have 2 cans. And of the fact that if I fill both of those up, it's costing us the same amount as the first can, and we're not charging the total amount for the second can. And I think just in that, hopefully that will get us to where, and I think with all of this, from where we're talking about the water and the sewer, water and sewer really, with that of the state coming in, I can tell you, we do not want the state coming in and setting our rates for our water and sewer, and of the fact that we just need to break even, and which in turn, I'm one of not increasing our taxes, keeping our taxes low and keeping all our city services low, but also of what we are taking out of our general fund to make up the deficit is costing a whole lot more on the tax rate than the $2 difference in this for our trash removal. So I think that's something that a lot of people do not understand, that when we have a deficit, and if we do not get it fixed, the state comes in and then they can set the rates at whatever they choose or whatever they think would be necessary. So of the fact of us staying in control of it is important. So like I said, the second can, I just feel like that it only makes sense that if you have 2, it's the same price, because it costs us the same if both trash cans are full. The landfill doesn't know the difference of one versus the other, so anyway.
Any further discussion? Mary Lee, would please call the roll?
Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Resolution 25-49 is a resolution approving a right-of-way access agreement with Connect Holding 2, LLC, DBA Brightspeed. Danielle Smith will present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We discussed this at some length at our city council work session last Tuesday, and so I will just be very brief. This agreement would allow Brightspeed to use the city's right-of-ways to install its telecommunications facilities at a rate of 25 cents per linear foot. This is the same rate that we have charged other telecommunications facilities in the past. We have looked at other ways of charging them, at what Brightspeed is being charged in other jurisdictions, and we think this 25 cents per linear foot is a fair and reasonable rental rate for the use of the city streets. I'll be happy to answer any questions that council might have about it.
So with this 25 cents per linear foot, because so they have quite a few feet already in our city that we have not been charging them for.
They do.
So this 25 cents, is it going back to number one, and they're going to pay us for every foot that they have within the city at a rate of 25 cents, or is this for only what is being added?
This would cover their existing, everything that they currently have, plus what they're planning to put in. Now, we're not trying to collect retroactively, because they have had telecommunications facilities in the city streets for some time, but we are going to be charging that rate on the total, their total map. So.
And the other thing on this, and I know I've asked, because I asked this to be looked at in the beginning, and I guess we have looked at other areas of what they are paying. My problem is that we've got, at 25 cents is what we said we have charged in the past. And just like we were talking here tonight of what we have charged for water and sewer, there's been no increase over the past ever how many years, that it's 25 cents, and then in this contract is a 20-year contract with a every 5-year automatic renewal for 20 years at 25 cents. I mean, so that's the part I can't wrap my head around, that if we've been charging others going back, let's say even 15 years ago, of what 25 cents is, what 25 cents was 10 years ago versus what it is now, were we charging that much more at 25 cents 10 years ago of overcharging? Is that what I guess?
We do have an escalator in this contract where those costs are going to go up on a set time frame. One of the difficulties here is that it's very difficult to actually come up with what it costs to replace the roadways and everything else once they're torn up by Brightspeed or any other utility that comes in. So one of the things we looked at was comparing how Brightspeed would be charged, which is by the linear foot. That's what we're allowed to do under the TCA that governs telecommunications companies, and comparing it to what other utilities are being charged. It's a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison, because other utilities are not charged by the linear foot. They get franchise fees, or we get franchise fees from them, but that's how state law says that's how we can charge them under state law. Then BTS is handled in a completely different way, because they are actually paying a payment in lieu of taxes that is, again, set by state law. What we've come up with here, though, is that Brightspeed is paying, their ultimate annual fee will be comparable to what we're getting from the Atmoses and the cable, the charter cable companies and things like that, that are paying the city for the use of the right-of-way now. Even though it's actually being calculated a different way, for what they're using, they're going to end up paying in roughly the same ranges. We've got those figures, those comparisons, which I can share with you, offline. I don't have them right with me today. But that's why when we actually did that math, we realized that probably the 25 cents that we're charging a large entity like Brightspeed is a reasonable rate. It doesn't necessarily match all of our costs, because that's a really hard number for us to pick up. But what we're allowed to charge, though, is a reasonable rental for our facility, and that's what we've come to determine right now. We will be looking at the next company that comes along, whether we update that. And we do need to look at the other entities that we've done this with, moving them along over the 10-year period, because the agreement does provide for an escalator every 10 years. And so that will happen with the first one that we've done recently, which was in 2015. That'll happen in the next year.
I have two questions. We had talked about some of these utilities that are not city-related or BTES-related come in, tear everything up, and then they do a really sorry job of replacing what they've torn up. So what provisions do we have to assure that whatever they tear up is put back as they found it? Leave it as you found it or better, right?
The agreement obligates them to put back what they've done, but that's one reason why we're charging the rental, is so that we can start to have some money set aside, or just money available where we can make those repairs after those things have happened. right now, we're not getting anything from Brightspeed, even though as, the descendant of CenturyLink, they've been in the city for decades, probably. Their predecessors have been in the city. So once we start getting those rentals, we should be thinking about, if not officially, at least unofficially earmarking those rentals for those repairs of the streets that are necessitated by them maybe not doing as good a job as they should be doing.
And then my to begin with, I think they should have to fix it on their dime. I don't think we should have to come back in at the 25 cents linear foot and repair what they've messed up. I mean, I just, if you're leasing, if you're leasing, then we should be able to collect for the lease and not have to automatically return that or use that, because we're not making anything off of this. We're just providing a service to a corporation, and doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy.
Well, to clarify, they are supposed to return it to its original condition, but a patch is never going to be as good as the road, and so there is a likelihood we'll have to repave in order to get that back into, more quickly than we would have otherwise. But that's one reason why we're charging the rental that we would be charging, is to help
And then
pay for that.
speculatively, thank you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Speculatively speaking, with everything progressing as quickly as it is, and we've got a 20-year lease, are they obligated to the 20-year lease, or is there an abandonment clause?
If they want to remove their facilities from the right-of-way, then I think we would have no issue with that, as long as there's returning it to the original state.
Well, let's say that they don't need what they've put in the ground anymore, with AI and everything progressing as quickly as it is. Let's say that they just abandon what they have laid in the ground. Is there an abandonment clause?
We have the right to go in and remove their facilities, if we need to. I mean, if they abandon it, then we would still have an agreement saying that they have to pay us rent. If they want to breach or if they want to say, let's terminate the agreement, we could talk to them about that. But if we ever need that right-of-way, then we can go in and remove their facilities at their expense if they don't remove it for us. And that's all covered in the agreement, that they are obligated to pull their facilities and move them to where we want it to go at their own expense once we say that we've got to do a project or we've got something going on there. If they just stop using the facilities, that doesn't relieve them of the obligation to pay the rent.
That's my question.
That's still our agreement.
Okay.
In that also, maybe, so if they, in this agreement, if they would sell or be acquired by someone else, does this state that if they are acquired by someone else, that it automatically goes to the new?
It would be, it's assignable to their successors. I mean, it's going to be, and if they've got the equipment, then yes, they're going to be the one, their successor is going to be the one who's picking up the tab for this. So if they expand or merge, yes.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution or amend 25-49?
I'll move to approve the Resolution 2549 with the right-of-way agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just like I said from the beginning, I want to make sure that, of what we are getting is the proper amount, the fact that we're going into, this is a 20-year commitment, and if, is the 25 cents sufficient? And I agree with Councilwoman that they should be repairing the roads back, which I understand. I mean, we've got the gas companies in town right now, and I saw how they patched the road going, in front of this building out here. Preventing that from happening. There's no reason of us taking of having the lease and accepting the money and then just having to turn around and put it back into fixing something that they have destroyed. I just want to make sure that in this agreement of them, that we can hold them accountable, because I think everyone up here, if we've tried to get, and part of this, have tried to get a hold of Brightspeed, how many times to talk to them about something as small as a parking lot, of leasing a parking lot, and we cannot get any. I've had people call, and anytime you see a line down, or you see lines laying on the side of the street, I'm getting calls because everyone thinks that it's BTES. Well, it's not. One of their lines, they had a pole that broke in front of Food City. It was blocking their entrance of going in, and of trying to get somebody out there to fix it in a timely manner. And I'm just saying this is my own personal experience that I've had with them. So I just want to make sure that this agreement, that we are getting what we should, that they're going to repair and they're going to take care of, because from what I've seen, at the end of my street, I believe it's still there. There's some of their equipment from Helene that is on the corner of my street that is laying on the ground, that has been there. Another line going across Sleepy Hollow that it was months that it was no large trucks, low-hanging line, that we had to put a sign out there. So it's things like that scares me with this particular entity of what we've had. So I want to make sure that we are getting the money, that they're going to repair, and they are also going, because if they're adding of maintaining what they're putting in, because I can tell you, BTS gets numerous calls.
Well,
weekly.
let me make a suggestion that you amend this motion. You can certainly amend the motion to send it back to council for another work session to deal with more of these questions, and we can take it up at a later point. So you could make a motion to amend the approval, and we can take it back to work session, and for Danielle to look at the, yeah.
Mayor, if I could, I do want to point out on page 6 of the agreement, Danielle can add more detail, but there are the provisions in this agreement about them having to install adequately and correct any deficiencies, remove equipment obstructions, and fix damage. Without having an agreement, we don't have anything to go point back to enforce.
Right.
So that is a challenge for us right now. But that language has been incorporated into the draft agreement that's in your packet.
I have a question. I have to walk a lot every day, and so today I was walking in the Ballard Imaging Center, and where BTS has done the tree mitigation, there are lines down across Beaver Creek, and then it was tied up with like some type of ribbon. And so I say that to say, is there any type of fine that can be assessed when they don't pick up, or any person that's renting off of our poles? Is there any type of fine that can be assessed to motivate and inspire them to clean up their mess?
I don't know of a fine, but typically they're not our poles.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I feel certain that this is this one.
Yeah.
And any pole attachment agreements, that's going to be between Brightspeed and BTS.
Correct.
This agreement does not cover any of that.
But if they have their stuff lying everywhere, then we need to contact BTES?
No.
We would need to contact Brightspeed, which is the utility that owns their stuff.
But they own some poles, and they have pole attachment agreements with BTES for the poles that we own. So
So do you
Like
want to
it-
make an amendment?
Well, is there on this and I understand that as of right now, we're not getting anything that of having this come in, so I don't want to, I mean, I'm not trying to, cut your nose off?
Cut your nose off, right?
Right. Whatever that saying is.
Yeah.
But do that, but I also want to make sure that we are getting, and that staff can say that we are getting what we should, and that they're going to be responsive of clean this up, or that, there is provisions in here. And I see in here, as far as maintenance, repair, and emergency work, of 2 working days. My only question is with these agreements, because did they send us this agreement, or is this our agreement?
This is our form.
Okay.
It was developed, we developed it over the last 10 years. We've tweaked it a bit, but it's our form.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Any other? All right. We're ready to move on. Mary Lee, will you please call the roll?
Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yes.
All right.
Reluctantly.
Reluctant, yes. All right, Resolution 25-50, it's a resolution authorizing entry into a stadium operating agreement with Boyd Sports LLC and Bristol, Tennessee City Schools for the operation of a stadium at Todd Houston Baseball Field. Mike Maines, Director of Parks and Rec, will present.
Mayor Hunt and members of the City Council, this resolution will authorize a stadium operations agreement between the City of Bristol, City School System, and Boyd Sports. The agreement provides a breakdown of shared costs to build the stadium as well, with the city contributing $5 million towards the project, school system $1.5. In addition to that, they have installed a new lighting system there that was totaled at $500,000 too. Boyd Sports will commit $2 million toward the project, and then over the lease period, we'll give annually to the city $25,000. The 3 parties will share in facility expenses, and also the agreement will look at the annual scheduling of the facility known as exclusive periods, with the school system using the facility from December 1st through May 30th, 1 week during the summer, and then also August through November in the afternoons from 2:30 to 6:30. Boyd Sports will have the facility from June 1st through November, and then the city will have opportunities to have events at the stadium and do league activities too as well throughout the annual period. Do you have any questions?
Any questions of council for Mr. Maines? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 25-50?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Nope. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just exciting.
Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akerd,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Maines. All right, now we're moving to Resolution 25-51, a resolution setting public hearings on the proposed annexation of territory into the City of Bristol by owner consent and on the related plan of services, Walter L. Harbor property, Beaver Creek Road. Ms. Young will present.
Thank you, Mayor Hutton. Tonight, we're here to kick off the process to annex 2 parcels located on Beaver Creek Road. As Mayor Hutton stated, the property is owned by Mr. Harbor. We're annexing at his request, and Mr. Stewart, who is present with us tonight, is going to be the representative of the annexation application and then has the future intention to develop the property. Currently, these properties are located in Sullivan County. They do have an A1 zone in Sullivan County, which is similar to the city's R1A zone. We did review this with the Planning Commission during their meeting on April 21st. We also reviewed the a draft plan of services with them, and I'll show that to you here. This plan of services is what has been drafted thus far as the Planning Commission looks at this and studies it. It basically says that all city services are available to the property at the time of annexation. The public sanitary sewer is available at the property, but future extension of the public sewer to serve the development would be at the developer or owner's expense. This does kick off, the resolution tonight does kick off the process. We'll be back with the Planning Commission and City Council throughout the summer to process the annexation request, but tonight's resolution gets us started, gets the public notification signs and advertisements out, and will get us on our way towards annexation of these two properties.
Are there any questions of council for Ms. Young? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 25-51?
Motion to approve 2551 with the hearings for the annexation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, I didn't think fast enough. I do have a question for Ms. Young, if that's okay.
Sure.
Given this parcel, and when you talk about city services, I think it's really important to note that this is located near Fox Meadows currently.
Yes,
and tell me again the acreage.
So it's 3.66 acres.
So how many home sites, if that is the purpose, could be put into that acreage?
So the draft plan of services states that we would consider zoning this as R2, which is the same zone that's in place there for the first 3 phases of Fox Meadows. That zoning district equates to 9 units per acre. However, there is some floodplain present on this property, so can they truly get 9 units per acre? I'm not sure. We'll have to work with Mr. Stewart to develop his plan in the future, but that would be the absolute cap on density.
And while it won't happen immediately, it will happen, and they would be zoned to a Avoca school for elementary school.
Yes, they would be in that
So
district.
approximately, taking into account the floodplain, maybe 20 additional homes.
Well, so
27 is allowed, but 20-ish.
right. I mean, they would have to consider, construction of a road in there,
Right.
depending on how many units it is. So the 3.66 would back down when you look at lot size requirements, how much acreage there is truly to develop. But 9 would be the absolute best
Most
case,
correct.
most in terms of density.
So since we have school board members and school representatives here comes some more houses, we hope.
Any additional discussion?
I was just going to say that annexation has gone through several revisions by our legislature, and it makes it a lot harder for the cities to do that, and it's more citizen-focused for choosing annexation. So we are pleased that people choose to be annexed into the city and receive our excellent services that we have in the city. So,
All right. Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Robin,
yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akert,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Moving now to the consent agenda. Ms. Bourgeois, will you please read the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First item is approval of the minutes of the April 1st City Council meeting. We have approval of the minutes of the April 22nd City Council called work session, approval of minutes of the April 29th City Council work session, approval of Resolution 25-52, authorizing the temporary use of public property and public right-of-way for the sale, distribution, and consumption of beer for Believe in Bristol. Approval of Resolution 25-53, approving a contract with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for the maintenance of state highways. Approval of Resolution 25-54, authorizing an annual inflation adjustment to financial assurance agreement for the City of Bristol demolition landfill. That is our demolition landfill that's no longer being operated. Then we have approval of Resolution 25-55, authorizing payment of Central Square Technologies annual maintenance fee. Approval of Resolution 25-56, authorizing the city to enter into an agreement with the Office of Inspector General, Department of Health and Human Services. Approval of Resolution 25-57, retroactively approving an agreement with TransUnion for credit monitoring services for individuals impacted by a data security incident. and approval of Resolution 25-58, approving purchase of an HVAC unit for the Slater Center.
Would any member of council like any item removed from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the items included in the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Margaret.
All right. Anyone in the audience like to address council on any item on the consent agenda? Fantastic. Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Fireup,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Akert,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
All right. Moving now to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few things tonight. First, we had a job fair last week on May 1st. We had about 50 employers with 1,600 jobs available. 350 job seekers attended that event. Very well attended. The employers were very, very happy with how it turned out. We will be surveying those employers and having data presented to our Industrial Development Board in the next couple of months. We also have our farmers market that started, so please go down there on Saturdays. Reminder, we have our council budget work session on May 22nd at 5 p.m. More information will be coming out on that. We have a site visit to the property that we're hoping to have the Sullivan County Public Health Clinic come in. That is going to be on May 12th. We have an arts stakeholder meeting tentatively scheduled for May 29th at the train station. More details will be sent out on that this week. And then finally, very, very grateful, I know it's gone public, for the $1 million that the state and all of the work, especially that Representative Crawford did, to help get that for us for the skate park. And excited, we've got Pillar Design already working with staff on the initial work for the site location and design for that park. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry.
All right.
The one thing that I had actually typed out for me, and I miss it. The Bristol MPO is seeking the public's input to help improve safety in the region as part of the MPO's local road safety plan. So we are trying to get as much public input as possible on that. Mike Arbray is working very, very diligently on that. If you visit bristolmposafestreets.com, there's a project survey. He is going to set up a little pop-up outside the June 3rd council meeting to try and get public input. And there will be some other pop-ups, Border Bash, the Abingdon Farmers Market, two of the upcoming ones that will hopefully get as much engagement as we can. But sorry, I would be remiss if I missed that one.
No worries. All right, city council comments?
I've got several, I apologize. And just want to compliment Micah and that group have really tried hard getting out in the community more than ever that I've seen. So several things. Communiversity, kudos to John and his staff for doing that. But I hope at some point we can get back to offering some for adults that we did before, but I know we need more capacity to be able to do that. And in the past, we talked about but never did, and we're behind also in 26. National League of Cities is in Nashville, so that's more doable than this year at Salt Lake City. And they have a tract for young people that I attended regularly in the past, and Councilmember Jack Young went to some of those. It would be great if we had a goal of getting some young people to attend that conference, as well as some of us. Board openings, I think there's maybe even up to 2 more on the CDAC, as well as some other boards. Encourage people to check the website. Health Council meets on the first Tuesday, so I have opportunity to report that. We have prioritized CPR training, and a committee is working on that. Chief Carrier is participating. Some of the things that they're trying to do is increase the number of AEDs, but they're also finding out where they're located and are they all tied into our 911 systems so they can be located during emergencies, and that's been an interesting process. So that alone is going to make a big difference with CPR. Also increasing the training and the certification. They're going to do some training during Kingsport Fun Fest, and then hopefully during our Rhythm and Roots, encouraging people just to have the real brief that doesn't give you a certification, but it helps you learn how to do CPR. So that process has been pretty interesting. Also, we talked about and want to encourage people with vaccinations. Public health is big on protecting people, and the measles is still increasing across our country, and a lot of fear by the public health officials that it's going to that it can really snowball at some point. So, and Dr. Tudor serves on that also, so we thank her for what the school does with the different projects. John Link was here earlier. We know George Link has worked so hard for our skateboard park. Also on, I'll say some of the responses on Facebook for him have been critical, and I think a lot of people do not know that the aquatic center is on our radar, that we're working on baseball, that we have a new pickleball court, that the programming with our Parks and Rec has increased, so a lot of people just don't know what all we do. So hopefully word will get out more and more that there's a lot to the programming and what we spend our money on for quality of life here in Bristol. Business friendly, we also sometimes get charged that we're not business friendly. That's been forever, and most communities are charged with that, but they use it. People might say, you know, one of our other cities is business friendly, but somebody there is going to say that they're not. So to me, the business friendly is making sure that our rules, our ordinances, our codes are easy for people to use, and we've been working a lot on that. Our planning department's been doing a great job with that. And I wanted to also just say that there's a lot going on with our federal administration, some things that are having huge effects. There's a new proposed presidential budget. That's not what's passed yet, but it has a lot of cuts in many things, including CDBG is proposed in that budget to be cut out. Also a lot of public housing and housing initiatives. So we don't know where things will land, but things could be pretty significant changes for us, so trying to pay attention and follow that. And the last thing I'll say that I was not truthful, I forgot, I had a Theater Bristol debut as Mrs. Claus in Elf, and it's probably one of the hardest things. I had no idea what it's like to actually be up on the stage. So kudos to you and to everybody else who's done Theater Bristol and other public performance. Thank you.
Do you have any events?
I'll say one thing. I would encourage people to come to the Planning Commission. There's a lot of hard work that goes on there, and our planning staff. When you talk about being business friendly, our planning staff meets with different individuals, developers, property owners, for many times, and try to make suggestions and to guide them so that they will have the greatest outcome. And so I'd like to compliment our planning department and our planning commission. It's tough. It's not always easy. It's not always black and white. So I appreciate the work that the planning department, that the planning commission does do.
I have one quick thing. Can you
Great.
believe it?
That's awesome.
Since our teachers and school board are some of the last men standing out here tonight, I just want to say with graduation coming, lots of exciting times for students and families. My favorite part is when the students write the impact letters for their teachers and they're recognized at the ceremony. It's just so meaningful and powerful, and just what a great job and impact the teachers have on the students. And my daughter is now in college, but I still text her first grade teacher when she has a great achievement and say thank you. And anyway, they make such a big difference, so thank you.
All right, well, seeing no more comments, this meeting is now adjourned.